small, quiet corner of Portugal, there's this little town called Fatima. For years, it was just another peaceful place, tucked away from the noise of the world. But in 1917, something happened there. Something so unbelievable that it would turn this town into a global phenomenon, drawing people from all over who still, even today, are trying to make sense of it all. Welcome to the world of Jimmy's Randomness, a place where secrets hide in the shadows and the truth awaits, waiting to be uncovered. Now, let's start at the beginning. Once upon a time, there were these three kids, and their names were Lucia, Jacinta, and Francisco. They were just normal everyday shepherds that was out in the fields one day in 1916, watching over their family's sheeps. It was during World War I, a time when fear and uncertainty were everywhere. But here in Fatima, life was calm. The rolling hills and grazing sheep, keeping everything simple and steady. And then, out of nowhere, something incredible happened. The kids were just playing around when suddenly they saw a figure, shining and glowing, almost like a crystal that was reflecting the bright sun. It was so unreal, and the children just didn't know what to think. Eventually, after a couple of seconds, the being introduced himself as the Angel of Peace, telling them to pray and to get ready. Now, ready for what exactly? That part wasn't clear yet. But one thing was for sure. This wasn't the last time something strange would happen to them. Fast forward to May 13th, 1917. The kids were out in the fields doing their normal everyday routine, when once again, they saw something appear in the sky. But this time it was a womanly figure, shining brighter than the sun itself. She was dressed in a gown, so white and bright, that it just hurt your eyes if you looked at her for too long. Now, the kids, as you can imagine, just stood there in total awe, completely stunned. They just couldn't believe their eyes, their minds racing, thinking, who was she? Well, it took a second at first, but then it hit them. This was none other than the Virgin Mary herself, and she had come with an important message. But not just for them. One for the entire world. She told the children that she would come back on the 13th of every month for 6 months straight, and each time she would have something important to tell them. Something so incredible, so undeniable, that the whole world would have no choice but to believe. Now that's a promise. And so, as the word started to spread quickly, the story of these three kids and their encounters with the Virgin Mary started to capture people's imaginations. Some were curious, some were skeptical, but many were drawn to the possibility that something miraculous was happening right in their own backyard. Then, June 13th came around, and sure enough, the Holy Mother showed up again, just like she said she would. But this time the kids weren't alone, as a small group of villagers had gathered closely, eager to see what all the fuss was about. And she told the children then more messages. Some were filled with beauty, others were heavy with sadness. As Mary told them that Jacinta and Francisco would join her in heaven soon, but Lucia would remain behind. Her role would be to share their message with the world, a mission that only she could fulfill. Now imagine hearing that as a kid. They didn't cry or panic. Instead, they accepted it with a kind of calmness that surprised the surrounding adults. It was as if they knew something bigger was at play, something more powerful than anyone around them could possibly understand. And so, as the months rolled by, more and more people started showing up, drawn by the hope of witnessing something miraculous. Eventually, by July 13th, hundreds of people had gathered, and again the Virgin Mary appeared. But this time she shared 3 secrets with the kids. The first secret was terrifying, a vision of hell itself, with lost souls suffering in ways the children could barely describe. Then, the second was a warning, saying, if the world didn't change, a much greater war than the one they were living through would break out. The world would plunge into darkness once again. And as for the third secret, that one would stay hidden for decades, fueling rumors and speculation for years to come. Now, not everyone was thrilled with what was happening in Fatima. The authorities, for example, who were skeptical and a little nervous about all this growing attention, decided to take action. And so, on August 13th, just before the next scheduled apparition, they kidnapped the kids and interrogated them, trying to force them to admit it was all just a hoax. But the children held their ground and refused to back down, even under pressure. And no matter what threats were thrown their way, they kept stuck to their story. Now, despite the kidnapping, Mary didn't forget her promise. She showed up again a few days later, on August 19th, but this time in a different location. She reassured the children and reminded them of their mission, to pray, to help save souls, and to stay strong, no matter what. By September the 13th, things had reached a fever pitch. Around 30,000 people crowded into Cova area, all hoping to catch a glimpse of the miraculous. And boy, did they get something. Witnesses claimed to see rose petals falling from the sky. But here's the strange part. They disappeared before anyone could catch them. It was like they were made of light or mist, something not of this world. But the real miracle was still to come. Then finally, October 13th, 1917, arrived, and the anticipation was completely off the charts. Now, despite the heavy rain that had soaked the ground, the skepticism, and all the doubt, over 70,000 people still showed up at Cova da Iria, totally drenched, but also determined to see the promised miracle. And so, people were hopeful. Others then again were merely curious, but all of them was about to witness something they would never forget. As the air was filling thick with suspense, something truly incredible happened. As the children gazed upward, the rain suddenly stopped. The clouds parted and the sun appeared. But this was no ordinary sunrise. The sun began to move, spinning and zigzagging across the sky. Many of the witnesses described it as if the sun had come alive, performing some kind of cosmic dance that defied all logic. Colors exploded across the sky, filling the heavens with a beautiful, otherworldly glow. The ground, which had been soaked with rain just moments before, was now suddenly dried. It was as if nature itself had bent to the will of something far greater. People fell to their knees in awe, tears streaming down their faces. Some feared the sun would crash into the earth. Others were overwhelmed with a sense of peace and joy. Even scientists, doubters, and government officials who had come to observe, many of them skeptics, were left speechless. There was even an extremely famous professor present, who described the scene as the sky turning into a deep purple, something unlike anything he had ever witnessed. It was as if the universe had bent the rules, just for a moment, to show them all something truly spectacular. Some said it was just some kind of bizarre weather phenomenon, an optical illusion caused by staring at the sun for too long or something. Others pointed to atmospheric conditions as the cause. But for the thousands who witnessed it that day, it didn't matter. They knew what they saw. Eventually, the church launched an investigation, one that spanned for more than a decade. And then finally, in 1930, they officially declared the events a miracle. But the secrets, oh, those secrets, continued to fuel curiosity. The first two were terrifying enough, but the third remained hidden, locked away by the church for decades. When it was finally revealed in 2000, it spoke of a bishop in white being struck down, which many believe referred to the 1981 assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. Even now, some believe we still don't know the whole truth of that third secret. Was it an apocalyptic warning or a glimpse into the end of the world? The mystery remains. Today, more than a century later, people still flock to Fatima, hoping to connect with something bigger than themselves. And so, whether it was a miracle, a vision, or just a strange trick of nature, one thing's for sure. The story of Fatima, with its secrets and sun-dancing miracles, will always hold a special place in the hearts of those searching for answers, hope, or a glimpse of the divine. And that's a wrap for this story. Maybe you've got your own stories to share. If you've got a tale just itching to be told, please share it. Check out the channel for more interesting and intriguing videos. Subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.